Deep in the heart of Nigeria, emerald green bathed in sunshine, Nkwerre, a village where life flowed as gently as the river. Farmers tended yams, children chased butterflies, elders shared stories under the watchful gaze of ancient palm trees, their leaves whispering secrets carried on the wind. But the wind, it changed. The sun, once a comforting warmth, began to set earlier. Shadows stretched, longer, colder. The whispers of the palm trees grew louder, more urgent. Something was different. Something was wrong. The villagers felt it in their bones, a creeping unease. The harmony of Nkwerre was faltering. The moon, usually a beacon of hope, became a source of dread. Its silvery light, once so familiar, now revealed something disturbing. Shadows, but not ordinary shadows. These danced, twirled, and writhed with a life of their own. They mimicked the villagers, yet moved with an unnatural, jerky rhythm. Fear snaked through the village. Whispers turned to anxious murmurs. What were these dancing shadows? Were they spirits angered by a forgotten ritual, or omens of a darker magic at play? No one dared to speak the thought aloud, but the question lingered, heavy in the air. What did it mean when shadows no longer obeyed the light? Then, the disappearances began. A fisherman vanished from his canoe, leaving behind only ripples and fear. A young woman walking home from the market never reached her doorstep. The village held its breath, fear choking the laughter that once filled their days. The elders, faces etched with worry, gathered. They summoned the dibia, the seer, her eyes ancient and wise. She consulted the spirits, the air thick with incense and anticipation. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was grave. The ancestors were restless, she revealed. They danced in the moonlight, seeking something they had lost. But what? And how could it be found? The shadows grew bolder. They no longer just mimicked. They reached out, long, distorted arms stretching towards the villagers. Panic seized Nkwerre. Doors were bolted, fires burned high, but fear was a hungry beast, devouring their courage. One night, the shadows entered a home. Screams pierced the darkness, followed by an eerie silence. The next morning the family was gone. Only their shadows remained, dancing silently in the morning light. Despair threatened to engulf them. They were trapped in a macabre dance with the unknown, and the steps were leading them towards oblivion. The villagers gathered beneath the ancient Iroko tree, its branches a canopy over their despair. Fear hung heavy in the air, a suffocating shroud. The elders, their wisdom seeming paltry in the face of this unknown, could offer no solution. Hope, like the embers of their dying fire, threatened to fade. Then, Mama Adana, the oldest woman in the village, her eyes clouded with years but burning with an inner strength, stepped forward. Her voice, though frail, commanded attention. "We have forgotten how to listen," she rasped, her gaze sweeping over the fearful faces. "The ancestors dance, but we have not learned their steps." The rhythm of hope. Mama Adana's words sparked a flicker of hope in the despair. Could it be this simple? Had they forgotten how to communicate with the spirits, their ancestors? The dibia, consulting her bones, confirmed Mama Adana's intuition. The ancestors, she revealed, sought not to harm but to connect. They yearned for the village to remember their rhythm, their story, their dance. A plan began to form, a desperate plan, but a plan nonetheless. They would learn the dance of the shadows. For 7 nights they would gather beneath the watchful gaze of the moon, and move their bodies in an echo of the shadows' movements. They would learn the rhythm of their ancestors, the language of the night. 7 nights, 7 shadows. The first night was the hardest. Fear, a monstrous beast, threatened to cripple their every move, but as they watched the shadows, something shifted. The movements, once jerky and menacing, seemed to soften, becoming an invitation. They moved awkwardly, hesitantly, but they moved. With each passing night, something extraordinary happened. The fear lessened, replaced by a growing sense of purpose. The movements of the shadows and the villagers began to sync. A silent dialogue was taking place, a conversation of movement and moonlight. They were learning the dance of their ancestors, a dance that transcended fear and bridged the gap between worlds. Harmony in the moonlight. On the seventh night, the air thrummed with anticipation. The villagers, no longer afraid, moved with confidence, their bodies an echo of the shadows. As they danced, a strange peace settled over Nkwerre. The shadows, no longer menacing, danced with them, their movements fluid and joyous. The ancestors, finally heard, began to fade. One by one, they disappeared, their forms dissolving into the moonlight until only the villagers remained, their faces bathed in the soft glow. The dance had served its purpose. Balance had been restored. Nkwerre, where shadows still dance. Life returned to Nkwerre, but it was forever changed. The villagers, marked by their encounter with the supernatural, carried a newfound respect for the unseen world. They taught their children the dance of the ancestors, ensuring the rhythm would never be forgotten. And so, every year, under the watchful gaze of the moon, the villagers of Nkwerre dance. They dance to remember, to honor, and to appease. They dance because they know that the shadows are always watching, and sometimes, the only way to conquer fear is to embrace the dance. For in Nkwerre, the village where shadows dance, the line between the living and the departed is as delicate as a moonbeam, and as enduring as the rhythm of life itself.